All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're embarking on a serious deep dive into the first principles of human biology to help you master your sleep, your stress, and ultimately your longevity. We're not just going to throw some surface-level sleep tips at you. We're going straight into the cellular, neurological, and endocrine mechanisms that literally run your life behind the scenes.
So let's kick things off with the ultimate question about human performance and healthy aging. For most of us, things like heart rate, digestion, cellular repair, they just feel like automatic background processes, right? Things we simply can't control. But what if that isn't entirely true? What if there's actually a back door to your biology?
Part 1. The Master Biological Clock. Our journey begins deep inside the brain, with the evolutionary hardware that physically syncs us to the rotation of the Earth. It's actually pretty incredible to think about. Your body's function is fundamentally tethered to the spin of our planet. There's this tiny cluster of roughly 20,000 neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN, and it acts as the master conductor for your entire biological orchestra. Interestingly enough, if you were left entirely to your own devices in total darkness, human biology actually runs on a cycle of about 24.2 hours. And because this internal cycle is slightly longer than an Earth day, it relies heavily on external cues, specifically light, to reset itself every single morning, sending critical timing signals to nearly every organ and tissue in your body.
Now, when your internal clock is perfectly aligned, your daily rhythm is just an absolute masterpiece of biological precision. Think about it. Cortisol isn't just some bad stress hormone. It's your morning activator. It peaks right around 6 a.m. to give you that natural, necessary jolt of wakefulness. Then by 1 p.m., your gut motility and cognitive alertness are hitting their absolute stride, which helps you avoid that dreaded mid-afternoon crash. As the light fades around 8 p.m., the pineal gland takes over, secreting melatonin to pave the way for deep mitochondrial repair. When these systems are firing in temporal harmony, you are perfectly optimized for peak daytime performance and profound nighttime recovery.
Part 2. The autonomic tug-of-war. But what happens when modern life, shift work, and jet lag completely break those precise ancient feedback loops? Well, you end up in an autonomic tug-of-war. Your nervous system essentially has two primary branches. You've got the sympathetic system, that's your survival accelerator, your fight or flight overdrive. Then you have the parasympathetic system, your brake pedal. That's your rest and digest state, which is largely governed by the vagus nerve. In a perfectly healthy human, you transition smoothly back and forth between the two, depending on exactly what your environment demands.
However, when this delicate balance is shattered by circadian disruption, chronic stress, or even post-viral conditions like long COVID and POTS, we enter a state called dysautonomia. Your nervous system literally loses its flexibility. It becomes incredibly rigid and heavily skewed towards sympathetic dominance. Your parasympathetic brakes essentially go completely offline, leaving you trapped in this wired and tired state of physiological panic. Your body is way too exhausted to function normally, but simultaneously too chemically stimulated to actually rest.
And the systemic fallout of this misalignment is just staggering. When your SCN is out of sync and your sympathetic nervous system is locked in the on position, the biological cost is massive. We see the HPA axis, which is your central stress command, start to secrete cortisol erratically. We see a dangerous rise in glucose and insulin actively pushing the body toward a pre-diabetic state. We see cardiovascular load spike, and the protective barrier of your intestines physically weaken, leading to leaky gut. So this isn't just about feeling a little tired during the day, it is systemic, cellular chaos.
Part 3. Hacking the vagus nerve.
Here's the good news, though. You actually possess a built-in remote control to manually override this neurological chaos. It all comes down to something called vagal tone. High vagal tone basically translates to having a highly functional, top-tier set of neurological brakes for your heart. The vagus nerve, or cranial nerve 10, literally wanders from your brainstem all the way down into your colon. It is the main structural highway of your parasympathetic system. Having high vagal tone completely alters your emotional resilience, because it allows you to rapidly recover from a stress spike instead of letting it ruin your entire afternoon.
And this is where it gets incredibly fascinating. You can manually trigger a molecular chain reaction to activate these brakes. For instance, the outer ear is the only place on the human body where a branch of the vagus nerve, Arnold's nerve, is actually accessible right through the skin. By mechanically stimulating the ear, or even just by using slow-paced exhalations, you're sending an afferent signal straight up to the brainstem. This literally forces the release of acetylcholine, which is a powerful neurotransmitter that physically binds to the pacemaker cells of your heart, forcing an immediate, measurable drop in your heart rate. You are quite literally using physics to hack your own biochemistry.
What this means is that targeted breathing isn't just some psychological relaxation trick. It is physical nervous system rehabilitation. When you intentionally elongate your exhales, you maximize respiratory sinus arrhythmia, which is the natural, healthy variance in your heart rate. By controlling your respiration in this specific way, you are literally taking your vagus nerve to the gym, strengthening your autonomic flexibility day by day.
Part 4. Protocols for Deep Rest.
So, to systematically recover our energy during the day, we have to look at the hard science of traditional naps versus non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR. When you take a classic 25-minute nap, you're dipping into light sleep. Now, this does biologically dissipate fatigue, but it very often triggers sleep inertia. You know, that heavy, brutal grogginess that can linger for an hour and make you regret laying down in the first place. NSDR, however, is an active state of wakeful deep relaxation. Because you remain conscious the whole time, it doesn't trigger sleep inertia. Instead, it relies on parasympathetic modulation to rapidly drop your cortisol levels and replenish dopamine. A nap clears fatigue over time, sure, but NSDR is a precision intervention designed to quickly balance your autonomic load exactly when you need it most. Just keep in mind, it doesn't replace actual sleep debt.
Beyond NSDR, recovering your temporal harmony requires some advanced biological interventions. It's about timing your light exposure precisely to shift your SCN based on your specific chronotype. If you're dealing with brutal jet lag, utilizing immediate-release melatonin as a chronobiotic can phase shift your internal clock incredibly effectively. For a chronically dysregulated HPA axis, adaptogenic botanicals like ashwagandha can actually help restore those natural diurnal cortisol rhythms. And crucially, you absolutely must align your exercise and your eating windows with your body's natural daytime peaks. This strongly reinforces the timing signals your brain is desperately trying to send to your organs.
Part 5. Chrononutrition and the microbiome.
Look, we absolutely cannot talk about optimizing the nervous system without addressing the gut, because your gut bacteria actually have their very own biological clock. The intestinal microbiome experiences daily functional fluctuations that rely completely on your personal light-dark cycle. So when your central clock up in the brain is misaligned, your gut microbiota is instantly thrown into dysbiosis. The healthy bacteria decrease, the pro-inflammatory bacteria multiply, and systemic inflammation just takes over.
This creates a wildly powerful bidirectional feedback loop between the two systems. From the gut up to the brain, your microbiome is busy producing short-chain fatty acids and neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA, which directly modulate your stress response. Then, from the brain back down to the gut, your HPA axis is secreting cortisol, which physically regulates the integrity of your intestinal walls and your immune cells. It is a continuous causal chain. Nervous system dysregulation actively damages your gut health, and an inflamed gut directly amplifies your nervous system panic. You literally cannot fix one without addressing the other.
Part 6. Temporal harmony and longevity.
Zooming out from the molecular level for a second, we arrive at the ultimate impact of all these mechanisms combined. As the elite circadian scientists over at Time Shifters so perfectly summarize it, our longevity depends not just on what we do, but when we do it. From single-celled organisms all the way up to human beings, true health span is achieved through temporal harmony. The biology of aging itself is inextricably linked to the alignment between our internal clocks and our external environment.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Are you going to keep treating your body like a machine that can just run 24/7, constantly fighting against millions of years of evolutionary biology? Or are you going to use these precise cellular mechanisms like light timing, vagal stimulation, and chrononutrition to actually master your nervous system? How are you going to apply this masterclass in circadian biology to completely optimize your own life starting tonight?